As we know, the environment that surrounds us is far much important for our survival. We tap energy unconsciously or consciously from this environment to live another day. Our environment feeds, nourishes, and provides us with the basic necessities for our mortal existence. The human population is growing at a tremendous rate. To fulfill our unending needs to survive as a race, we humans have grown more sophisticated in ways and techniques in reaping off the environment. Can the environment dilapidate because of this human rage of survival? Can it revive itself in the face of the intelligent human race? In our new episode of The Loud Whisper, we travel to the districts of Zomba and Machinga in Malawi to discover how human life is being affected by its very own environment as it struggles for life itself. We take you to Lake Chilwa, measuring 60 kilometers long and 40 kilometers wide. Lake Chilwa is the second largest lake in Malawi. Its size encompasses 3 districts, Zomba, Halombe, and Machinga. Lake Chilwa has no outlet, and so its water levels are greatly affected by seasonal rains and summer evaporation. Directly, Lake Chilwa supports more than 300 villages that are camped around its shores, swamps, and wetlands. This amounts to 60,000 people. On a wider scale, the lake is also responsible for indirectly supporting 1.5 million Malawians. In turn, the lake accrues a turnover of over 14 billion kwacha from fishing activities every year. 20% of all fish caught in Malawi stem from Lake Chilwa. This equals to around 17,000 tons of fish being caught each year. The lake's water isn't only productive for fish. On a yearly basis, Malawi produces 100,000 tons of rice. 50% of that number comes from the rice harvests dotted around the wetlands of Lake Chilwa. We are seeking a place called Ndirande. And no, we are not talking about the infamous neighborhood located in Blantyre. Lake Chilwa's Ndirande is an area on the open lake. As we head deeper into the lake, we pass traffic, other fishermen going about their business. Their day is long and hard. They paddle tremendous distances in order to gain their next catch. Shifting deeper into the lake, we arrive at Impale, a saying which means there's nothing. And indeed, there's nothing on this part of the lake. Just a wide, empty space that gives the impression of an ocean. Eventually, we arrive at Ndirande. In the areas we previously passed, the lake was open. Here, natural canals, regulated by weeds, have formed. We are in search of floating houses, also known as Zimboera. We finally come across a Zimboera. However, the home is vacant. We figure its owner is on the lake in the hunt for fish. And so the journey continues, back out into the hood of Ndirande. we come across a second Chimboera in Indirande. Unfortunately, we find the home's owner, a fisherman. This little floating shack is actually floating on water. Inside, the house is modest, but surprisingly comfortable. It is made of a type of grass called mululu and bamboo. The fisherman tells us it only cost him 3,000 kwacha to build, and the cost only concerns the creation of the foundation. The rest was done without dipping into his pocket. Like the birds that visit this lake during preferable seasons, life for the fisherman on the lake is always in transit. They are constantly moving to areas where there is the most water and the most fish. Not only that, but the fishermen also have permanent houses dotted around the mainland of Malawi. Some from Zomba, some from Lilongwe, others from Blantyre. They will live in a Zimboera from anywhere of up to a month or a year. After that, they simply leave, light their Zimboera on fire, and move on. On the lake, life is always on the move.
Kuno nabwera chaka chatha ndiye timapanga usuzi. Kabwera kupanga usuzi tikapeza ndalama timapita kukho kukathandiza mabanja. Tikatero timabweraso. Komanso ndalama moyo timatha kulimisira kumunda, kugula zina ndi zina zofunikira kwa ana ku sukulu, ndalama ili timapeza kuti kunyanja kuno.
As we leave the trading center behind, we head back into the open lake. We are not heading for more Zimboeras, but instead, we are heading for the land, an island to be specific. We arrive at Chidiampidi, a small island located to the east of GC Island. Chidiampidi is a tiny island that has a population of 96. The overwhelming majority are adults. It's very rare to find children on this island. Chidiampidi was settled a long time ago by the chiefs of Chisi Island. As with many other accessible areas on the lake, Chidiampidi's main commodity is fish. But that's not the only commercial enterprise on the island. There is also a thriving market for flour and tobwa. The inhabitants of this island claim that they are here temporarily, and they even have a chief. But one wonders, what is the criteria for choosing this chief? But as always, fish rules on this lake. It's the predominant income stream. They have an interesting and possibly unhygienic method of cutting fish. We are told that there are no toilets at all at this place. They relieve themselves directly into the lake. We also hear that cholera outbreaks are frequent during the rainy season. No wonder. Hospitals are not near at all. When a lot of these fishermen aren't out on the lake, they arrive at local tarvins and they spend their day here, drinking and passing out and drinking again, reviving themselves and then going back to drinking. It's a well-known fact that alcohol reduces one's ability to comprehend situations sensibly, and it couldn't be more true than this. There are around 40 men on this island. and there are 3 sex workers. 40 males share the same 3 sex workers among one another. There is a brothel with 4 rooms, with beds made out of mululu grass. These are used by the 3 sex workers and their clients. There is no shortage of business. We found used condoms lying around. One wonders if there are enough condoms or if they really know how to use the condoms. Talking of HIV/AIDS prevalence on the island, we are left with wonder. But life goes on. As we head back to the mainland, we think of the lives we have left behind at Gidiampiri. These are people who have left their families on the mainland to try hard enough to make ends meet. The lake as their source of survival. We travel back to Zomba City to spend our night, and we leave early in the morning for Mposa Dock, which is northeast of the lake. Mposa is not an island as Gidiampiri. It lies on the foot of Chikala Hills of Machinga, an hour drive from Namwera Trading Center in Zomba on the Zomba-Lilongwe Road. Mposa is a striving trading center and is known for fish and rice trading. We are told that during rice harvest, the trading center experiences an economic boom. We meet the chief of Mposa. We ask him where the lake is. For all we could see is tall mululu grass. Chief Mposa smiles and beckons us to get into a small boat which is floating helplessly on a shallow and muddy narrow waterway called Nkombero that disappears into tall mululu grass. We are quite afraid, but our instinct urges us on. The chief and his friend start to paddle us slowly with a long rod called Mpondero towards the tall mululu grass.
Nkombero mmeneu umatitengera no malingana mmene matalikidwa ake kapena choncho matalikidwa ake tingane kuti mwina 3 kilometers kuti kafika ni kumpali kwini kuli mazi ambiri matalikidwa ake kuti choncho ndithu
Mungu ni sababu ndikoma Mweli jeni nawe
It's a busy waterway, we discover. Similar canoes and boats dangerously passing each other, carrying various goods. Along the waterway, we see fish traps, called mnyono, and fishing nets. We stop to take a closer look. Mnyono are streamlined fish traps made from small bamboo sticks, skillfully handmade with a wider entry and no exit. These mnyono are lined skillfully along the Nkombero, trapping and killing a huge number of fish. A fisherman could set a number of such traps during the evening and find his catch the next morning. We come across this fisherman on his daily rounding of his traps. Today he finds nothing, and off he goes for his next mnyono. finally arrive. People and a lot of canoes. A small fishing village floating on water. There is life here, and there is actually traffic on the waterway. It's like a small, tiny Malawian version of Venice, of Italy. Our boat docks on one of the larger Zimboeda. Our crew disembarks on a semi-dry ground and soon discovers that the structure is actually a grocery shop, a bar, a fisherman hostel, a tiny fish processing factory, and later we are told that behind the structure there is a brothel. They are busy people. Life as normal as any other Malawian village and town. Something catches our eyes. One of the fisher folks is overdrunk with the cheap alcohol that has flooded the Malawian market, popularly known as Inkalabongo, brain scratcher, with brands as Super Midori, Shooter, Win, and Black Ponda. This makes us wonder, how can such cheap alcohol infiltrate this small village? These are the moments when we feel like our government is doing nothing tangible to curb the problem of cheap and strong alcohol being readily found for Malawians who could contribute to so much to the economy of this country. We feel sorry for some young men in the bigger cities and towns we have left behind who are idle and drink to death. But that's for another day. Life on this small floating fishing village is diverse. There are people who come here solely for fishing, others for bringing basic services such as groceries, food, phone charging, and barbing. Some live here for an entire year, benefiting from the small market economy. As we interact with the inhabitants of this small village, we come across a boat full of people wearing orange reflectors. These are called Beach Village Committee, BVCs. They have their own canoe with a heap of fishing nets. We wonder who these people are.
Ntchito yathu ndikuonesesa kuti zachilengedwe tikuzisamalira mkatikati mwa nyanja ino ya Chilwa, monga nsomba ndi zomera za mnyanja munomo, ngakhalenso moyo wa anthu. Timaonesesa kuti asodzi amene akukhala mnyanja ino akhale ndi zida zovomerezeka zophera nsomba. Pali zida zina amene amagwiritsa ntchito zosavomerezeka, zosaloledwa, monga mosquito net, amagwiritsa ntchito kupanga miyono, amapanganso timakoka ta mosquito net zimene amamwetera udzu otchedwa mululu. Chinanso nchakuti asodzi aja akamalowa kunyanja kuno sitilola kuti adzilowa ndi kudzakhazikika monga kukhala ndi mabala kumwa mwako kuno, asamatengere kwa azimayi. Ana amene asakukwana zaka 18, asakupita zaka 18 asabwera kunyanja kuno. Aina kuonesesa kuti ana akupita ku school. Obwera kuno akhale over 18 years kupita kutsogolo. Azimayi akakhala kuno ndi kuti azibambo onse ali kuno amakhala kuti chilakolako chofuna azimayi chimathera kuno. Samapezanso mpata kuti apite ku nyumba akasamalire mabanja awo. Ndi kuti popezanso kuno kulimowa akamamwa ndi kuti azimayi amuna aja ndalama yawo ikuthera kuti kuno. Ndi papezekanso kuti kunyanja kuno kuli umve. Pamene akukhala kuno akamachita ma short time awaja ndi kuti makondo mwaja kutaya madzimu. Mwoti akamapha nsomba zija ena amatha kupeza kuti pofuna kuti ang'ambe amapeza mukati muja makondo mwaja. Ndi kuti timonanso kuti azimayi aja akupereka uve osiyanasiyana moti akakhala malo awo khanso. Zimene amagwiritsa ntchito zija amataya madzimunso ndi kuti madzi akuonongeka mnjira osiyanasiyana.
An interaction with the BVCs shocks us. Lake Chilwa is at risk. As we are heading back, another 3-hour journey on the canoe to the mainland on the same waterway called Nkombero, we are saddened by the fate of this water basin of Lake Chilwa.
Ifeyo tili odandaula malinga na chithandizo chathu tonse timapezera mu nyanja munomu. Ndikuvuta kwa nyanja kuti uziwa kuti tili pa chiopsezo anthu okhala ku nyanja kunoko. Ndikuphwera kwa maziko kuzabuka mavuto ngati amene maonaso zaka zambuyozo.
Kunkhani ya nyanja tu tinene zona kunoko kwathu sizili bwino. Zafika nopovuta kwambiri oti ndi mmene timayerekezera kuzaka zonse mazi akakhala kuti abwera ochuluka. Timadalira ndithu ngati ifeyo achinyamata timakhala ndi ntchito zosiyana-siyana kupangano ma transport kumbali ya maboti awa komanso kupangaso ndoti usozi monga ngati wanchomanga khaya kutani nkhoka zambiri ndithu zimene zimatithandiza. Koma panopa zikuoneka kuti focho tichamazi amene wachepawa tikhala pa mavuto osaneneka focho timadalira muno. Timadalira mmene muno.
Human civilization throughout its history depends for its survival on its surrounding environment. The Lake Chilwa situation is a microcosm of such. The mountains and the so-called protected forests that surrounds the lake provides the water needed for the lake. Malawians living around the lake survive because of the lake. It is all connected. Nature is. We leave Lake Chilwa for Blantyre. We will probably find no electricity in our homes. We will use charcoal to provide energy to cook our dinner. Is the charcoal we use not made from the trees cut in the mountains that provide the needed water for the survival of such a lake? Will this important but drying lake provide fully for a market economy of a town like Mposa in the next 30 years? Our minds are full of unanswered questions, and we fear for the worst of our beloved Lake Chilwa.